Hey everybody, I want to make a quick video regarding the importance of writers following directions. So in the course, obviously every assignment has very specific directions. And I know sometimes students get a little frustrated because they feel like I'm being too picky, too anal retentive about following directions. And actually that's kind of opposite my personality. I'm a pretty laid back, live and let live kind of guy. But when it comes to grading the assignments, there's a specific rubric I'm to follow, and it's got these line items, and I'm contractually obligated to follow them, and that kind of thing. But more importantly, as writers in training, it is super critical that we train our brains to read directions carefully and follow them to the letter. And here's why. Every journal editor, every publisher, every agent, every anthology editor, on and on and on, everyone that you want to take your work seriously and hopefully publish it, turn it into a movie, whatever your aspirations are, they have very specific and very idiosyncratic rules, guidelines they're called generally, for how they want you to send your work. Everything from, everything like the file name you put on the document that you send them, who specifically do you send it to. Some journals, for example, they use email to, I got my writing sleeve there. They use email to have you send material in. It's very common, even though there are places like Submittable and DuoSumo, etc., etc. A lot of them still use email, but it's like if it's poetry, send it to this dude. If it's fiction, send it to that dude. If it's an essay, send it to this person. On and on and on. When you get into contacting agents, oh my gosh, there's 1,000 different versions of how they want you to contact them. First of all, whom do you contact? Just one example, most agents are part of agencies. In other words, they have other agents that they're working with alongside. And some agencies are like, cool, send your pitch to all of us if you want to, or 2 or 3 or 4 of us out of 12 or whatever if you want to. And they're fine with that because they each read the pitches independently, and it's fine if one of the 3 likes it and the other 2 don't, or if 2 of them like it, they can work it out who's going to represent you. But then there are other agencies that is like a deal breaker. They want you to pick one agent and send it to that person only, and wait till you hear from that person, which you probably never will, by the way. They'll only contact you usually if the answer is yes, or they want to hear more. If they're not interested, most of them now just don't respond. But anyway, sent to that one agent, and then if the assumption is they're not going to represent you, then you could contact others. But again, 1,000 variables. How do they want the manuscript? In this font versus that font? Do they want these kind of margins versus those kind of margins? Point size, this, that, and the other. Do they want a synopsis of the novel? Do they want a chapter-by-chapter summary of the novel? Do they want sample chapters? Do they want 3 sample chapters? Or do they want the first 50 pages? And if the first 50 pages end mid-sentence, is that okay? Or should you continue on to the 51st? The point is that every editor, every agent, every publisher has very specific and very idiosyncratic ways they want to be contacted. And they expect you to read their guidelines, which they've gone to the trouble of posting on their website or publishing in Writer's Market or whatever it might be. And here's the thing. Everybody I know in the writing world, every editor, every publisher, every agent, every proofreader, on and on down the line, is buried in an avalanche of manuscripts that writers and poets and screenwriters, etc., have sent them in hopes that they will pick their one manuscript, their one story, their one poem, their one whatever, script, their essay, and publish it. And because they're all buried in an avalanche of manuscripts to the point where it's depressing and discouraging and they're wondering why they didn't go to law school, they're looking for any excuse to jettison a manuscript out of their inbox without even reading it, saving themselves hours of time, perhaps. And so the best way you can guarantee that your manuscript, whether it's a haiku or whether it's a 100,000-word novel, the best way you can guarantee that they're not even going to look at it, not even going to read the first word of it, is if you don't follow directions. If you send it to them in a way that they don't want it sent to them. As soon as they see that, you're out of here. I don't know anyone, and I've been doing this 40 years, not 4 years, 40 years. I don't know anyone who will look at that and say, this writer, they didn't follow directions, they did this instead of that, I told them not to. Maybe it's wonderful. Maybe it'll change the course of literary history and I'll become super rich thanks to their genius, so I'll go ahead and read it anyway. Psh, nah. They're just happy to have an excuse not to read the darn thing, right? So, while it may seem to you that I'm being overly critical, overly anal, to try to get you to follow the directions of the assignment exactly and to apply the rubric verbatim to what it says, part of what I'm doing, a big part of it, is trying to train you to read directions carefully to the point where you understand them, and then you follow them to the letter. Because it doesn't matter if you're the cleverest novelist, the most insightful poet, whatever. If you can't follow directions and submit your material to the editor, the publisher, the agent, the contest judge, you name it, in the way that they want it submitted, they're never going to read it. All right? So get in the habit of reading directions for your assignments, reading them carefully, and submitting them exactly as they're supposed to be submitted. Here's just one example. I've been teaching for this university for a couple of years now, and they always want you to submit your list of sources that you use in MLA style. That's standard in English. That's English, and the humanities use MLA, the sciences use APA. And assignment after assignment after assignment, students don't use MLA. They either use APA or something that's kind of like APA, or they try to use MLA, but it's like, it's close. And so assignment after assignment, I have to deduct points because they didn't use MLA or they didn't use it correctly. And again, that may seem like, what's the big deal? I'm a creative writer, I'm not a scholar, I'm not going to be submitting articles to academic journals, I'm going to be publishing my wonderful fiction and talking to Reese Witherspoon about it. So what does it matter if I know how to use MLA style or not? Well, maybe specifically it doesn't matter if you know how to use MLA style or not, but it does matter if you know how to follow directions and submit material in the form that it's supposed to be submitted in. Because if you don't, instead of your teacher deducting points on the rubric, it'll be the editor or agent saying, you're out of here. I got a lot to read. I'm not going to bother with somebody who can't even follow directions. All right? So, not to sound like your dad, but follow directions. It's a good habit to get into for writers in training because you got to do it when you're trying to get your stuff published. Otherwise, it ain't going to get published. All right?